this. Do, 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 do. I love doing that. Do, do. Hey, it is 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, and you are in the green room, even though it's blue. And they can see it on PANJ TV. We are here today. Rodney, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Vinny. How are you?
I'm doing well. You just kind of slipped on in.
Yes, I slipped in. Had other stuff going on.
Yeah. How come?
Well, you know, filling your car with stuff and taking your daughter to college.
Oh, yes.
Is never enough. There's always that little stuff that got left behind that have to be shipped.
Oh.
So that's what I'm trying to doing some running around today.
In Connecticut, was that right?
No, she's outside Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
Outside Pittsburgh, Slippery Rock University in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. It's rural. It's very rural.
Got to watch your footing in Slippery Rock.
Yes.
Very rural.
Yes, it is. So it's
voice of Robert Bell.
It's about a 6-hour drive from here. So it's like on the opposite side of Pennsylvania. So if you've never driven across Pennsylvania, you don't appreciate how big it is.
Oh, I've driven across it.
It's a beautiful state.
And it's big.
I mean, it
just goes on.
They only cut through the tip.
That's right. That's right.
Going south.
Okay.
It's gorgeous, but it takes a while. So.
Well, there's things you got to do.
Yeah, that's all right.
Things you do
All's
for
well
love.
that ends well.
Yeah, and she's okay?
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
First year or second?
Well, she transferred. Her first year was at community college. Then she transferred. So, yes and no. First time there. But it's...
By the way, that's the voice of Jeff Mullins, right?
Mullins.
Mullins. And we'll be talking to Jeff in a few minutes. Probably quicker than that.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So, what did I do? I went to a beach this week and took my dog. You know, we found wineries that you're allowed to have your dog.
Wow.
And
do the dogs drink too?
Yeah. Only water, though.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. Really, it was a very nice winery. I mean, you're out in the backyard, and the thing is tremendous, and there's tables and stuff out there.
Wasn't Working Dog, was it?
I think we visited Working Dog, too.
Love that place.
Working Dog's a little place, right? Right next to the train tracks.
Yep.
We didn't go with the dog that time.
Vinny's dogs don't work.
Yeah. No, they don't.
They're vacationing dogs.
Yeah, they just make me work just by picking up after them all the time. But, yeah, so the winery, that was one of them. But we were testing them out. We were, like, driving around. Then the other day we actually took them to this other winery. And it was a lot bigger than that, and just very spacious. And the dogs were going nuts.
Interesting.
They didn't want to sit still. There was so much activity going on.
Good for them.
Yeah, good for them. And then, just the other day, we found, I don't know, we've been finding places to take our dogs, you know. And we took them to the beach.
Oh.
I don't know if it's called City Beach or is a national park where you can take them, and they, you know, there's a lot of people there. There's different sections, and this one section is for people fishing, and dogs can play and stuff like that.
It's kind of like down in Asbury Park. They have a dog beach.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Then you can always go to the Wonder Bar and do Yappy Hour.
Oh, I'm gonna have to write this down. Although I don't know if my wife wants to take the animals anymore. It was very stressful for her.
A lot of work, huh?
Yeah, she can't relax. You know, it's like the dogs are, they're dogs. You know, and they bark and they want to chase after somebody and all of that. And she doesn't like them upsetting anybody there. But it's a dog park. It's a dog thing. So, to me, it's like, well, they'll do what they're going to do, and you know, that's what people know.
That's right. It's why they're there.
But the thing I was going to say was I was having so much trouble. It was really a beautiful walkway from the car parking lot to the beach. But I have this little heart problem, you know? And it was like a maze, and it was all sand, dunes and stuff to walk over. It was tough for me to do that. It was really hard for me to get over there. And coming back was really hard. You had to go up these hills and down.
Take
and
little baby steps.
I was like huffing and puffing, and I was carrying some chairs and stuff, and it was like my wife had left. I mean, she didn't leave. She went,
Yeah,
that's right.
She forgot
she
all
just
about
left
me.
you.
She
I
took
know.
the dog. She
Don't
had
you
the
love
dog, and
that?
she ran out to the car. And I'm over there going, oh, man, I don't even know how to get out of this place. It was like a maze. and it had like Y outs, you know. Do I go this way or go that way? I said, if I go the wrong way, I ain't making it out of here, you know, because I can't breathe. So at any rate, I finally found the way. And my wife was there. She said, what took you so long? And I was like, are you kidding me? And she started laughing at me. Like, don't you dare, man. That was a tough walk.
She should have left breadcrumbs.
Yeah, that's right. I said, at least, because I didn't even have my phone, you know.
Ooh, that's not good.
No, I didn't have the phone. I couldn't even call her and say, hey, I'm on the floor over here, and I can't get up, you know. But,
So we were in Toronto a couple of years ago,
and you fell
and
off?
I have some problems with my feet.
Okay.
So walking long distance can be a problem. And it's like my wife and daughter, they just kept on going.
Yeah.
And I was just going slower and slower. And they were like 2 blocks ahead of me. And I was-
They didn't even know you were there.
you know, if there was a decent bar, I just would have just headed into the bar and said, you know,
Come get me on the way.
see you
out.
later. You know, let's see how long it takes you to notice that I'm missing, but didn't happen. But it was very tempting.
Yeah, well, it happens. You know, it happens to me. I try to figure out this whole heart thing, and I'm getting better at it, I think. So went to the doctor. Everything was cool.
Good.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's good to have a heart.
Have a heart. Yeah, as long as it's beating.
Yes.
So, Jeff, Vice President of the Rebuilding Warriors.
Yes.
And you do a lot of good stuff. And one of the things are these little doggies that you take and helped out the wounded vets. And it's a great service.
Tell us your deal, Jeff.
I'll give it to you down and dirty.
All right.
I retired May 31st of last year after 28 years of active service.
Unbelievable.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last half of it, I was a Army combat medic.
Okay.
So I did a couple of deployments. Didn't know about Rebuilding Warriors at the time. And every time I go home, never made a class reunion. So one year they said, we're having a 70s reunion. So I show up and I see Jeff Anderson's name on the list.
Okay.
And we went to elementary school, high school. He went in the Army as a dog handler, and I went in the Navy as a Navy Seabee.
Is that right? Yeah.
So we didn't see each other for all those years. And then I see him, tells me what he's doing, and I'm like, I got like 2-3 years left of active duty. And I say, I'm all in. So it's amazing, and people just don't get it, you know, about what a dog does for a person that has PTSD or even a traumatic brain injury and an amputation, you know.
Therapeutic, very therapeutic.
Very thorough.
Yeah.
And they're very well trained. If the veteran needs a specific function to be done, like pick up and hold stuff or to go fetch, the dog is trained to do so, you know, on command.
We have Zoey in here in our studio. I don't know if the camera's on him, but her.
Well, if he stood up, we could see him.
I know.
All right. Maybe later
He's
on.
sleeping just off the camera there.
Sleeping again.
Ah, yes.
So he told me about Rebuilding Warriors. That he actually started doing this in 2013, and 501c3 through the IRS in 2014, and from there, you know, we started doing like 6 dogs a year. He did 6 dogs a year.
Where do you get the dogs from?
We have kennels, Massachusetts, Texas, Las Vegas. We get puppies, and hopefully the connection that I just made here in New Jersey. There's a woman who breeds labs in Mattawan. I think it's or no, it's down by
Someplace else.
Millstone.
Millstone.
Yeah. So we use purebreds, and they just work out the best.
Is that right? The purebreds?
We
No
try-
mutts, huh?
Zoe's the only mix in our program.
Is that right?
And,
I was going to say, she doesn't look like a lab. She's a little,
she's a little bull terrier.
yeah, the snout's kind of.
Yeah. But she's amazing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some of like PTSD and these other issues. Are these things that you have to deal with, or is this just
I do.
you're helping others? Okay.
I'm actually 100% permanent and total through the VA
Okay.
for anxiety, and like my little patience is non-existent. So it's amazing on just how things affect people, and without having and lived it, I would never really understand it, I don't think.
Yeah.
But, it got to a point where it started interfering with my marriage, and I, finally told my wife, I said, I can't do this anymore. So I started getting help for it. And
So how did it affect you? What were the symptoms?
I'd get like little anger outburst,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd always be directed. She would take the brunt of them.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't, after a while, after it happened, I'd look at her and I'd walk away and I'd say to myself, what the hell was that about?
Yeah.
So it was an ongoing issue, lack of sleep.
Right.
So finally I went and started getting counseling for it and seeing a psychiatrist and prescribed, medications to help kind of offset and get things back on the right path. And, slowly but surely, certain things are starting to come back. And I still don't like being in a crowd, unless it's a crowd of my choice, of people,
Right.
majority of the people that I know.
Right. So did this come about because of a particular deployment or a particular experience? Or?
I think both.
The whole thing, probably.
Two deployments, one to Iraq. I ran the second shift of the emergency room in Baghdad, and then my deployment as the team medic for 17 guys. So,
Did you take, you have doctor, are you a doctor? Or?
No, I was certified as a combat medic in the Army. You have the equivalency as a paramedic on the outside.
Oh, okay.
It's for the civilian
cool.
side.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was
Very important.
interesting to say the
Very
least.
important, yeah.
So, I would imagine that kind of medical role and that kind of situation, how many people don't get PTSD dealing with that? I would think even in a civilian emergency room.
And they do, and that's why I'm glad you brought up the civilian side, because this is the first year that we've actually added into our program. It's not just for veterans now; it's for first responders.
Right.
So we've already done 2 first responders this year, and but the thing is that in our program we don't go seek them;
Right.
they have to come to us.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
hard part.
That's the hard part. I was going to say you have to you have to believe that you have a problem before you can get it fixed.
Right.
And a lot of people just say, that's just me or whatever,
Yeah.
and they just let it roll.
It's hard to. It's really hard for somebody to admit to themselves that they got a problem.
Right.
So given your medical training, did you get any kind of training in the military about PTSD and how to recognize it, what to do about it?
I knew I had it.
Right.
But it really didn't come to a head until I started seeing what it was doing between me and my wife.
Right.
That
It wasn't good.
It wasn't good. And finally I got to a point where one morning I got up and I told her, I said, I can't do this anymore. So that's the start of the road to trying to travel back to the right side. But the thing is, you can take all the medication in the world.
Right.
Still ain't going to make it all go away.
No.
Yeah.
No,
and that's the hard part.
that experience in itself has to really. I mean, I've never been in service, so I don't know, but I'm sure it's so deep, man. Just being out there and
But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
I got out for 10 years on my
Well,
adult
28
life.
years, I think.
That I had gotten out when
Proven that.
when I met my wife, and we got married, and we were supposed to deploy to Kosovo or Bosnia.
She was in the service also?
No.
Oh.
No, she was here in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out because I didn't want to spend a honeymoon, over in a place that has landmines and stuff everywhere.
Good
so,
thinking.
Right.
So
Good
I got
thinking.
out. At least I could be around a little longer.
Yeah, yeah.
At least in one piece.
Yes. So, and then one day she saw me standing at the dining room table just staring at it, and she looked at me and said, you want to go back in, don't you? And I said, I do, but, if I go back in, there's a chance that I'm deploying. And we did.
And you did.
So, yeah. But, it is what it is,
So was there, was your career up to a point where everything was going okay and things weren't too traumatic and
It was just business. Business as usual every day.
right? But as far as, I mean, how far into your career did the really bad stuff happen that really had an emotional
Toward the
impact
end.
on you? Okay,
Toward the
so
end.
up to a certain point, you were doing okay.
Oh, yeah, from 2008, 2009, and then I kind of figured I was working as a combat lifesaver instructor down at Fort Dix for those non-medical people deploying, and I figured I was kind of safe because I was teaching. I ran the course,
Right.
Okay.
and had a colonel come up to me and tap me on the shoulder, and he goes, "Mullins, come here." And
Have I got a job for you?
I know. Yeah. And I said to him, "What's going on, sir?" And he goes, takes me over to an office, and he points to the major in there, and he says, "Put the face with the name I gave you." I go, "What's going on?" And he goes, "You're going to Afghanistan." And I went, "Son of a bitch." I'm glad this is the internet. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right.
I have a friend of mine who's retired from the Navy.
You have a friend?
Just one.
Okay.
And there was a time, I think he was in Bahrain during the second stuff was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. And as I understand it, I mean, you might think if you're in the Navy, you think of ships, you think, okay, and like Iraq and Afghanistan are not really near any water. So you might think you're good, but it was my understanding from him, if you had certain skill sets that were needed wherever,
Yeah.
it didn't really matter what branch you were in. If they needed you, then you were going. And thankfully for him, I think he only got as far as Bahrain. I don't think he ever got into Iraq or stuff like that. But there were all kinds of people.
Well, even just living with the heightened security.
Yeah.
Some people they can't handle that.
I have a friend of mine. She was in the Connecticut National Guard, and
See,
she
you
was,
lied.
and
He's
she
got two
was,
friends.
she was deployed to somewhere in Iraq, and it was like she almost had like an HR job, and she said she was in this compound like the size of a high school. So for about a year, she lived inside this high school because going outside was just too dangerous, and thankfully she got in, she got out, but she had.
Was that in Iraq?
Yeah, that was in Iraq.
Wow.
And though I imagine the really stressful part of her job, if you remember back in Iraq, a big problem was the caravans of trucks that would be attacked. And she got to pick who the truck drivers were.
Oh.
So, that's obviously not as stressful as driving the truck, but, that's...
Especially if you're close to one or the other.
Right. I mean, you're picking people who may not come back, and but it all worked out for her. So
That's good. That's good. Yeah, those pretty intense times.
So as far as the dogs are concerned, tell us about the dogs.
Well, I'll start with like the process. A veteran will come to our website and make an inquiry onto the website, basically saying, hey, how do I get a service dog? And then once we kind of find out where the guy is, we email him back, and then we find out the pertinent information, and and then we vet them. We ask them for paperwork just to prove that that they, one, have an honorable discharge, two, that there's no criminal record. Believe it or not, a veteran with severe PTSD, somewhere along the line, is going to do something.
Yeah, I would think.
And it's really it's our standard not to do people with criminal records, no matter how minor or how major it is. So they come to us, and then once we vet them and we select them to get a dog, then we really get into them and find out what it is that you need from the dog. Are you just PTSD? Do you have stability issues where you can't get out of a chair or you can't get up off the couch without having some form of assistance? The dog will be trained to stand right there for you while you lean and put your hand down on the dog's shoulders, and the dog will stay there, and which will allow you to get up. And then in other cases, opening doors, turning on lights.
The dog does that?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's probably
Aren't there,
special lights.
There's a little something tied onto the light so the dog can grab it with his mouth. I mean, it's or they just
No, they usually they'll get the
sliders, like boom, boom,
yeah,
boom. Yeah.
or the regular switch.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dog is trained to actually do that. And I've never physically seen a dog getting trained to do that, but from what I'm told is that it starts out with a piece of paper with a black dot on it, and they make the dog put their hand on it, or their paw.
Yeah.
Well, they're almost
we got it.
so,
Yeah. Look at him.
So,
Look at her.
and then they gradually move it up the wall until where the light switch is, and then that's how it all happens, I guess. I don't know.
That's cool.
But that's what I've heard. If that's true, then that's what it is. But the dogs are specifically trained. Like, we don't say, okay, we got 12 dogs this year, we're going to train all 12 dogs, and then find a veteran or a first responder to put them with. We get the veteran or the first responder first, and then we match the dogs up to the veteran.
Okay.
So that way you're not wasting time or adding time into the whole training process to go, oh, this guy's an amputation.
How long does it take to train a dog, basically?
The youngest dog that we gave away was 12 months old. So, but it starts very young for them, like socializing, taking them out, socialize them around people, other dogs. And then after they reach a certain age, we'll do the obedience training. And then once they've got the obedience training down, and then if there's any specific training that needs to get done, that's the time to do it after the obedience.
So how many dogs wash out?
Wash out?
Not a lot. I mean, we
They
have
don't make it.
we have had a couple washouts. We actually had dogs that we took from shelters, and
they weren't able to.
No, because see, that's the other thing too. There's other organizations out there that primarily that's all they do is shelter dogs.
Right.
But
exactly.
there's a reason why the dog's in the shelter. So you don't know the dog's life, and then our thought is, why are we going to give a dog who may or may not have issues to a veteran who does have issues?
Right.
It's not a win situation.
Right.
We had last week the veterans vet rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were
Colonel
here.
Beachy.
Yeah. He was telling us about how, like, it seems like a system here. Like, you try to help the vets when they do. Now, if they have a problem, those guys take care of that.
They do. They do
do
some
counseling and stuff like that.
Right.
So
and anything with like clothing and and helping them out with securing some place to stay if they're homeless.
Right.
It's a nice organization that they're doing.
Yeah. No, it's kind of like a balancing.
Yeah, I met him the first
time.
time up in Flemington at the chamber. So it was the first time. I wasn't able to attend the Rock and Blues Fest.
Oh, we got another one coming up.
Guess we're going into that.
Yeah.
It's September 8th from 1 to 9 or 1 to 8.
No, 1 to 9. 1 to 8. You're right.
And it's up at the Croton Rod and Gun Club. 31 Rake Road in Flemington. So at the door, it's $20, I believe, to get in.
25
$25 online, or
no,
the
the
day
reverse. Or wasn't the reverse? Well, I thought
It should be cheaper online than to get
yeah,
there.
I would
of.
think.
It is, and then it's $25 at the gate.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if you have if you're going to partake in the car show, you're $15. Any veterans or any motorcycle clubs are also $15. And one thing, the most important thing about it is, if you're a veteran and you can't afford to go and you want to go,
You're in
for free.
Yeah.
So.
I would hope that.
And they have a nice cast of musicians that are volunteering their time for it. Cece Coletti and her husband.
Yeah, we heard about them, but
Yeah.
I've heard them before. I've had their CDs.
And I didn't find out until a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that he's actually the lead guitarist for the Spin Doctors, which is kind of interesting, you know. So there's
good group, very good.
Yeah. So the other bands that are there are DJ Legacy,
Right.
the Jug Handle Blues Band, and the Incinerators.
Jug Handle Blues. Really?
Yeah.
Jug Handle? They are great. They're from around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the food trucks, and it's a good time.
Yeah.
That'd be a great name for a band, the Food Trucks.
There you go.
Who's coming? The food
Makes me
truck.
hungry just thinking
The
about
food
it.
trucks are coming. Awesome.
Everybody wants to come and
Yeah.
see them.
Ladies and gentlemen, the food trucks.
So from what I hear, last year it was a pretty good show.
Yeah. That's what they
Unfortunately,
were saying.
It
yeah.
rained a little bit, so it kind of got a little wet, but there was still a nice showing up there. So I'm hoping that anybody who's around that wants something to do on a weekend that'll support the veterans, by all means, it's worth the time to come out and take a look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like a good time.
We should have a few veterans with service dogs there. You know, anybody is more than happy to ask questions, and
Right.
we kind of ask that our veterans come out because it's part of the process of why we give them service dogs.
Absolutely.
To get them back out into
Sure.
doing those things that a normal person would do. You know, this is their new life. So now they have to get used to it.
The new normal.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, the veterans coming out, well, after like a 4-year term, they could be anywhere in their 20s, right? 20s, 30s.
Mid-20s,
Yeah.
depending on how old they were when they went in.
Uh-huh.
I initially joined at 17, so
Did you? Yeah.
I could not wait to go in the service.
Is that right?
Apparently not. So
What
was
was
that
the-
an issue? Did you have to get your parents' approval, or
Yeah, I did.
so what was
that's,
what was that like?
Well, they were okay with it, but a friend of mine's older brother had joined the service a couple of years before I decided to go to boot camp. So his brother came home on leave, and he came up to me and he says, "I hear you're joining the service." And I said, "I am." And he says, "Who's your recruiter?" And I said, "Marv Tonkin." And he goes, "Perfect. This is what I want you to do. When Marv asks you what you want to do in the Navy, tell him you want to drive the boats and shoot the guns." And he walked away.
Is that right?
So I sat at the dining table in our house, and my mother was sitting on one side, my father on the other, Marv was sitting there, and my brother was standing in the doorway. And Marv asked that question, and my brother shaking his head, silently saying, "No, don't do it." And I said, "I want to drive the boats and shoot the guns." And he packed his stuff up faster than you can count to 10. And out the door he went. And, of course, I got a nice slap in the back of the head from my father. So we did it all again 3 weeks later, and all was good.
Yeah.
So did, I assume you had to graduate high school first.
I did.
Okay.
I think we're coming up on a break. Is that right, Mr. Bell?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to take a break. Our number is 609-460-4673. This is PANJ Radio, and you're in the green room. So we'll be right back after these little messages.
The smiling faces, the sweet embraces, love and love and love.
Hey, I'm Deirdre Anderson with Delish Catering,
And I'm Laura Mangone from Chambers Walk Cafe and Catering.
and we'd like you to join us on Food for Thought, where what do we talk about, Laura? We talk about restaurants, we talk about
Pet
recipes,
peeves,
pet
food.
peeves, bitchy hostesses,
All sorts of food-related items.
all sorts of
Tune
food
in.
stuff, and sometimes not so much food stuff. We go off on segues, but we have a lot of fun, don't we?
Absolutely.
So join us on Food for Thought.
PANJradio.com, 1 o'clock weekdays.
Hi, I'm Vinny Veterosa, and I approve this message.
Vinny is such a pussycat. And incidentally, if you've never had a massage by Vinny Viterosa, you
like
must
this.
do it. You will be grateful to me for having suggested it, for him for having done it, and for yourself for having the wisdom to accept the advice.
Have Table Will Travel with Vinny Verderosa.
He's got magic thumbs. The man has magic thumbs. He really does.
He really does.
Right now, 3 one-hour sessions for the price of 2, which include general massage, reflexology, and acupressure. Check me out. See for yourself why people feel so good when their session is done. On Facebook, Acupressure Have Table Will Travel. On the web, relaxintoreiki.com/partners. My telephone number is 732-259-3129. And you can get me here anytime on PANJradio.com.
Explore the river towns of New Hope and Lambertville and be part of the fun. Shop in the area's most unique stores, from antiques to toys to apparel, and you're sure to find a one-of-a-kind treasure. Make a reservation at one of Lambertville or New Hope's variety of dining options. For dinner, wine, beer, or an artisan cocktail, indoors or out, grab an ice cream cone to enjoy by the river for the first Friday fireworks. Create memories that will last a lifetime at the river towns of New Hope and Lambertville, where everyone is welcome. Visit DelawareRiverTowns.com.
All right. Here we are.
And we're back.
And we're back. And see, I didn't want to say that because I'm always saying it.
Oh, sorry.
Plus,
That's
we've
okay.
been
want me
here
to
the whole
say?
No,
time.
no, it's good that you said it because
Okay.
I didn't say it. Rodney said
All
we're
right,
back.
I'll take that over for when after the first break. How's that sound?
Okay, cool.
See if I can remember that.
That's okay.
That's
Let's see.
that's
Takes a little bit off his back.
that's
right.
a big
heavy
ask. That's a big ask
responsibility.
for me.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the dogs.
Yeah, the dogs.
the-
Enough of this partying and having a good time stuff
know.
and like cars and bands and stuff. So as far as your dog, Zoey,
Are the dogs allowed to come to this
Yeah.
event,
Well,
festival?
I don't know if regular dogs are
Oh,
allowed
it's just
to come.
or just
the working dogs.
The service dogs, yes.
Yeah.
So is this the first dog you got through the organization?
Zoe, I actually got her when she was 3 months old.
Okay.
And when I got involved with the organization, we started doing these little fundraisers at like Miller Ale House, and they'd let us go in and sell a wristband for $10, and
Right.
people would get 10% off their check.
Awesome.
So after the first time, the manager said, you know, if you had a service dog here, you'd get more money, guaranteed. So I got Zoe trained, and we went in there and we pretty much doubled what we did the first time.
Wow.
So as far as your quality of life, what difference has Zoe made?
I would say all the difference in the world. You know, the other thing that I haven't said about the dogs and people with PTSD and stuff like that, the ones that are really wound tight, that don't even mention this, what's in their head to their psychologists, family, psychiatrists, who they talk to the dog.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I
Yeah.
talk to Zoe all the time. I take her everywhere. And she knows when I get a little anxious, and
Yeah, she picks up on, I'm sure, every dog.
but she'll take her left leg, and because she sits in the front seat, you know, she don't get in the back.
Put the seatbelt on or what?
Yeah, she just sits there, looking her out. But she'll, if I say a couple choice words
Yeah.
for an out-of-state driver or something, she will take her left leg and put it over my right arm and pull it under her, so I have to be touching her to break the chain.
Wow.
Chill out,
Yeah,
man.
she did that all on her own. People ask, well, how do you teach them that? I go, you can't.
Right.
It all comes from the bond between the recipient and the dog.
Right.
Dogs are amazing. They really are. They're such beautiful creatures.
And then if you really do have that bond with them and they look you straight in the eye, they're telling you something. When she looks at me and her ears are out to the side.
So what is she telling you when you get that signal? What's that mean?
When are we going outside?
Yeah. I want to go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's OCD'd with tennis balls. So that much.
So she's got her own issues then.
She does. But I try to control her.
I think you probably help her as much as she helps you.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Now, as far as the dogs are concerned, I mean, I guess it depends on the individual and how intense the help the person needs. But do the dogs kind of tire out?
No.
After a certain amount of time, do they? Because I know it's my understanding with bomb sniffing dogs and really work,
and they get burnt out.
And they only really function well for a certain period of time before they're kind of just wiped out.
Ours will go for almost the entire life of the dog.
Right.
That's part of a sad part of the story too, because their life is so much shorter.
And we actually have a recipient who got a dog a few years back. One of our first dogs. Her dog died of leukemia. So we are in the process, and it looks like sometime at the end of October, November-ish, she will get her second dog from us. And she's had it tough. She actually witnessed her husband kill himself. And plus she's got PTSD herself.
Yeah,
So,
well, I would think.
Just not a good thing.
I got a shot of Zoey on the TV now.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. All
Sound
wrapped
asleep.
But the other thing about the bond between the recipient and the dog, I mean, there's stories that I've heard that people have sat there with a pistol in their mouth looking straight at the dog and the dog looking at them, and they didn't kill himself.
Right.
Because they said they couldn't do it to the dog. So that's the whole success to it. You know, there's numerous people. I mean, I could mention some people, some of the things that happened to them. One is a young kid who I really, really enjoy being around. He's a good kid. He's a very big supporter of whenever we have functions. He always shows up if he can show up. He was Army. When as an infantryman, decided to go into the 82nd Airborne and learn how to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. And in his training process, his parachute didn't open at 100 feet.
Oh, boy.
So, obviously, only place to go is down.
Yeah.
And he lived. No broken bones.
Wow.
But when he got out of the hospital, Army said, it's just like a bicycle, get back in there. And he ended up getting out. And then when he would go to the VA and they'd say, well, you don't have PTSD. So in my initial dealings with him.
It's like, you jump out of a 100-foot tower, and you tell me if you get PTSD.
And that's what I told him. I said, bring the doctor outside and point up the top of the building.
Go ahead. You're going to jump out of that?
From up there and tell me you're not going to have PTSD.
It's insane.
So long battle for him. He got his just due for the VA, and now he's going to school. He wants to do psychology and give back to help veterans.
That's great.
So,
yeah, there's a lot of giving back in this thing. A lot of giving, a lot of taking, a lot of coming back. You know, it's working together.
And the thing is that just like Vet Rest and Rebuilding Warriors. If we don't take care of the veterans, who is?
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
You know, veterans, I mean, they can only get so much out of the VA, but when the VA starts to, tell you, you're not that bad, or no, you don't get this, then there's got to be a way that somebody's got to help them.
And it's a shame that happens.
It is.
Do you encounter veterans who are, in lack of a better term, too far gone to be helped by a dog?
No.
Okay.
We, one of my favorite recipients, we did May 17th last year. or this year actually, in front of the Johnson & Johnson Retiree Association, who they had probably close to 700 people there, right? So they actually sponsored a dog. They wanted a dog named JJ. And if Dave's listening, yes, I am talking about you. So Dave and JJ have done more stuff since May 17th. Dave never stepped a foot in Costco. He goes into Costco. He goes into his local grocery store. He had one little incident, and he told us about it, and then we all went there and had the conversation with the manager and the staff and said, you know, wherever we go with a service dog, they're allowed to go everywhere with us. So they got it, and we kind of corrected the problem, and now he's good to go. Hey.
Yeah, he's okay. Rob's taking his picture over there.
Yeah. I had to move this. So, but that's the other thing too, is that the other thing that's giving us a bad name out there is all these people with the fake service dogs.
Fake service dogs?
Fake service dogs. Because they don't want to leave their dog at home.
Yeah.
So they buy a vest and they put service dog on it. But if people really knew, who had a real true service dog, they would know the two questions that anybody, it's the only thing that they could ever get asked. And I'm not going to say that on the air.
Okay.
But
no, that would be giving it away.
Yeah. But and the other thing is that, you know, you see people going into restaurants with a dog in a bag.
Yeah.
That's not a service dog. Service dogs walk with all four paws on the floor, on
So,
the ground.
so the people that you're helping, do they ever have like genuine problems with stores or restaurants or?
Occasionally, but we try to correct those, and it all comes down to education.
Right.
And as long as people are educated and not ignorant to it, they're fully receptive to it, you know. And once they get it, they get it. But they'll know the difference between a true service dog and a fake one, because Zoey doesn't make a sound outside of our house. She don't bark. She don't growl. She don't do anything.
Really?
She don't even go after another dog. All I got to do is tell her, leave it. She minds her own business, and off we go.
Yeah, it's interesting. I tell my dog, leave it, and he goes, he comes and gets more. It's like, leave it. Yeah, okay. Okay.
So, but then you get dogs that are out there in the restaurants that are barking.
Yeah, right.
They're not service dogs.
So if you ever had a problem with a dog.
So that's one way to understand that what's the discipline is there. How did they get along with other dogs?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she loves playing with dogs.
Yeah. Okay. You take her to dog park?
No, I don't do dog parks.
No.
But I do take her down to Yappy Hour in Asbury Park.
Oh, okay.
Now she's trying to talk to me.
Saying, what are we doing here?
No.
So does she ever tell you that she's bored?
Right now.
She's
And it's like, come on.
She just did that.
We got to be doing something better than this.
Yeah. But if I say that precious 4-letter word to her,
yeah,
she will perk up in a heartbeat.
So as far as Zoey, does she have? I mean, unless it's too dangerous to say, are there certain things that she really likes to do that she really enjoys, and like things that like you indulge her with?
She enjoys tennis balls.
Okay.
She loves the fetch.
It's that lab.
Yes. And she's a very high drive dog.
Okay.
I would feel bad for somebody who had her that wasn't okay with that.
Right.
And that's the other process that we do with the dogs and the recipient, is that we find out, are you active?
Yeah.
Are you actively
that's important.
and play and exercise with the dog, because it is very important. That one thing we're not going to do is give somebody a service dog that's going to be a couch potato.
Yeah. That, I mean.
Stop. I'm looking at you.
I love it.
We hear you, Zoey. We know it. Just hang on. You can do it.
So it's that's just, she enjoys a tennis ball.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, my dog is a lab, mixed, though, and he loves tennis balls. Just throw it and anything, he just goes after it. He's a puppy,
Right.
and he needs that energy. He
Absolutely.
has so much energy,
But you can.
and I don't have that energy.
But once you find out what a dog's driven by,
Yeah,
you can get them to do anything in the world.
yeah, yes, that's
So
right.
when I was up at the other place where you guys say you started, up at the chamber,
yeah.
all those chairs up there had tennis balls on the bottoms of the.
Oh no.
So as soon as we got in, she saw the yellow everywhere. She went and tried to get every one of them off the chairs.
What are I doing on the chairs?
I know. So,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Is she like treats?
not really.
Oh no,
No.
because that's the only thing my dog will listen to you.
But actually, to keep a dog from gaining a whole ton of weight by giving treats, use the dog food that they eat.
Yeah, I do that too.
the
As a matter of fact, I
simplest
had to do
thing.
that today.
So if a veteran is blessed with one of these dogs, but one of the dogs gets health problems, who pays the vet bills?
That's on them after
If they're there.
after they have them. Actually, here when we present a dog to a veteran, what they get from us is a complete in-home setup. We give them a crate big enough for the dog, a food bowl, water bowl, their first big bag of food that the dog's
Right.
accustomed to
You
eating,
get them set up.
and their first vet visit is on us. So their checkup, they take all their records to their vet that they want to go to, and from there, it's after that visit, the rest of it is on them.
Now, do they have to assimilate their state? They have to learn also how to deal with the dog. Is there like a training for the person?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we do that, what we do is we allot a 40-hour block of time so that the trainer and the recipient and the dog can be together and go into. It's kind of
Totally
ironic because I
different.
find out what the veteran has issues with, like going out to grocery stores at peak time, and 99% of the time they say yes. So I find all of this out before we get with the trainer, and then when the trainer is there, they go, "So, where are we going to start?" And I go, "Let's go to the grocery store." And then they just look at me, and I go, "That's part of training. It's supposed to. A service dog is supposed to assist you in the confidence and going back to trying to become something that you were before, and like you said earlier, the new norm."
Right.
So, but we do give them a good block of training. We video it. We take a lot of photos, and I send them to the recipient so
Right.
they can see that even after we have left, if something isn't working quite right, they can watch the video and go, "Oh, that's what I'm doing wrong." Or they can just pick up a phone and call me or call the trainer.
It's I would think that everybody's got to know what the system is.
And the best part of it is that when you have like our trainers, they all get PTSD. They all get it. So it's not like something you have to tell them, "No, we can't train them like that. We can't do that." They get it. So that's the easy part on our side is having well-informed trainers that do great training.
Yeah, sensitive to that. Sure.
Jeff, I have a question. Is there like an upper age where the dogs have to be rotated?
Not really. We've only replaced. We're actually in the process of replacing our first dog for an illness that the dog passed. They had to put the dog down for leukemia, so we're actually giving her another service dog. That is, I think the dog's like 14 months old now. And then we had a veteran that we gave a dog to up in New Hampshire. The veteran died. So we gave the family the opportunity to keep the dog, which they have. And now they've reached out and said that they want to give the dog back.
To somebody who needs.
Yeah, so it'll come back into the program, be
Does that confuse
retrained.
the dog? I mean,
Not really.
One family to the next?
No.
No?
As long as the training can go back into and the dog can get back to the standard it was when he first got given, then we'll go ahead and place that. service dog with another veteran.
So what's your funding come from? Where is?
Good question.
Well, first of all, how many employees are there? Is everybody volunteer? How does that work?
We're 100% volunteer. So everybody is volunteering their time, their effort, and it's a lot of hard work, especially putting on an event. Every year we do one down at the Headliner in Neptune.
Oh yeah.
And I tell you what, as much as I love having the big gathering of recipients and service dogs and trainers and dogs in training, the effort, and for me, like this year I told my wife and family, I said, I'm not doing anything as far as the raffle goes. And they did a phenomenal job with it. And it was just, Tommy at the Headliner, who owns the Headliner, says, this was the best fundraiser yet.
Wow.
Which was really a nice compliment, but unfortunately, we have to do those fundraisers because we rely on public and corporate donations to do the job.
Oh,
So how much money do you have to raise every year, one way or another?
It's no set dollar amount.
Right.
For us, on paper.
What do you shoot for?
I'd like to hit $1 million. No, really good. Because then we wouldn't have to do fundraising every year.
Right.
That's right.
But typically an average fundraiser that we do, like down at the Headliner, we usually hit about $45,000.
Okay.
So
Nice.
That's
that
nice,
takes
yeah.
up.
Very nice.
That's a good chunk that we still, like I'm still using money to do presentations and pay for dogs and training, because we give our trainers a stipend to do it.
Right.
$250 a month. And if we hadn't purchased a dog prior to that, then we actually paid the trainer, who was probably the breeder, for the total sum, which usually comes out to about $5,000, $6,000, and then medical expenses, food, and it all adds up.
Right.
So we've gotten a lot of good support here in Jersey. I don't want to say good, great support. On the same day as the Rock and Blues Fest, we have probably the largest 5K run in the state of New Jersey in Belmar. It's the 9/11 Fallen Hero Run.
Which Belmar? I know there's two Belmars. One
It's
Belmore?
No, it's not Belmore. It's Belmar.
Okay.
It's the
Vice-
better.
That's
It's the
near the
better
water.
one.
Yes.
It's the better one.
It's
Is
the
it
one
the
with the
better
nice
one?
beach.
Why is
The
it
nice
better?
beach and the good bars.
Because it helps. Because it helps these guys.
Oh,
that's
okay,
why.
okay. I didn't know where you were going.
So the New Jersey FMBA has become they've been very, very, very good to us. And they host this run, and we're the recipients for it.
Well, that's great.
And the FMBA is the Firemen's Mutual Benevolent Association. So great group of guys. I can't thank them enough. And every time like they're having a convention next month down in Atlantic City, and I get text messages, phone calls. Are you coming down? You coming down? You coming down?
Yeah, that's nice.
I'll be down.
Do you help them guys out also if they need a dog or anyone else?
If we get firemen or anyone,
EMS or something
EMS,
like
anybody, that's what we're doing.
That's great.
So the only thing is that now that we're actually getting our word out there, and hopefully people realize if you do have that problem, PTSD, and you're service connected or you're work connected through the civilian sector, just go to our website, www.rebuildingwarriors.com.
Have you had to turn people away?
Yes, we have. And basically discharged. We had one kid, Marine Corps, got out with other non-honorable. Couldn't give him a service dog. I helped him in going into the right direction to get his discharge upgraded. And he told me the other day that he got it upgraded. So now he's eligible
Awesome.
to get a service dog. So first thing I tell him was, go to the website, fill out the inquiry, and...
Have you had to turn people away because you didn't have enough dogs?
No. But usually we set the number of dogs in the beginning of the year or at the end of the prior year and say we're not going to do any more than Like this year, I think we got 18 dogs. And next year, we're only going to do 10.
So where do they stay when they're in training?
They're all with the trainers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So-
they're all volunteers?
Yes.
Wow.
Like I said, they get stipends
Right.
each month to do that, but we don't pay them unless the dog gets placed.
Okay.
And so far, it's been we haven't really had that issue.
Right.
You know, I love our trainers. They do a great job. So
That sounds great. That sounds very holistic here. Just
So what are the plans for the organization? What's the big
To
picture?
grow.
The big picture down the road. Wouldn't it be great if we could fill in the blank?
help everyone.
Duh.
But believe it or not, you know, people have actually sent me emails. I get my business card, and they send me emails saying that, you know, I have diabetes. You know, can I get a diabetic dog? It's just not something that we do.
Right.
You know,
A
there's other-
diabetic dog, someone to a dog to remind them to take the insulin.
No, actually, they sense when they're
When-
going
When they're going
with
to crash.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
That is. It's,
Animals, dogs are so amazing.
and
They're
seizure
so
dogs.
amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
funny because I was talking to somebody about a seizure dog the other day, and they didn't even know what a seizure dog does. But a seizure dog is supposed to be trained to get their head underneath, especially if the person is on the floor,
Seizure. Okay.
to get their head under the neck so that the person's head isn't bouncing on the floor.
Wow.
No, somehow they can sense. I don't know if it's probably from the smell of the person that they know that the seizure is going to happen before the person does. Mm-hmm. So
Could be.
it's,
That I don't know how they
Yeah.
can ever train unless they have one person who's their ideal person who has
seizures.
the seizures quite often.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
So it's pretty amazing what they do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've read about dogs that are trained to, it's like there's skin cancer samples, and actually dogs, because they're so good at smelling, they can literally detect cancer better than the standard medical tests. They can smell,
I know. I heard something like
and
that.
it's just,
Well, that's like if they get a cat in a nursing home, and the cat goes in, walks up and down the hallways. They know when somebody's going to pass.
yeah.
I don't
very
know what it is.
instinctual.
It's
nature. Nature at its
it's
best.
amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I think the dog knows the show's about over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
He's waking up.
Zoe's a timer dog.
She's waking up.
Oh yeah, she's a timer dog. All right.
Well, folks, we got to go now. It looks like Zoe's waking up now, so it's the end of the show.
So if anybody out there wants to know more
Yeah,
about us, they can go to our webpage, www.rebuildingwarriors.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And
What is it? The handle on Facebook and Twitter?
it's Rebuilding Warriors
That's
on
it.
all of them.
Okay.
And you know, on the Facebook, we have videos. Our live feeds are kept on Facebook because I usually tag Rebuilding Warrior, so it goes directly to the Facebook page.
Okay.
So, and then anybody so inclined that wants to make a donation, we do have a donate button on the webpage.
On the webpage.
So,
Is that .org? I'm sorry, I missed that.
.com.
.com.
And if someone thinks they might need a dog, they should contact you.
They should actually go to the website and hit the inquiry button, which is almost down at the very bottom of the page.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much for being
I
here.
want to thank you guys for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And thank Zoe for coming.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the finally being able to go to the fundraiser up there at the Groton Gun Club. So,
Yeah.
Zoe, come here. Come on, up.
Up, Zoe.
There you are.
Good girl. Good girl.
Come here. Up.
Well, this is
Just waking up.
PANJ Radio, and
There she is.
Miss me?
Aw, how cute
I know,
is
you
that?
never need tissues with the dog around,
So
do you?
I know, it's
Sweet.
like that commercial on TV. The kid in the high chair. His father goes to clean him up and comes back and the dog's licking his lips. Oh, that'll work.
outrageous. Next lifetime. Next lifetime. Anyway, this one, we're out of here. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, Vinny.
Thank you.
Rebuilding Warriors. Check it out. And
give him a hand.
See you next week. And
or a paw.
You done?
Yeah, I guess I'm done.
Okay.
Don't forget,
Peace.
you got to say you're back.
That's right.
The first break
That's next week.
Peace to you. Goodbye.
Love and love and love. People before me, one common purpose. Children crying in the night. I look around me.